I touch Mac.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to tonight's broadcast of the Aegis Champions League, where we've had a little bit of a last-minute swap for our featured match. We're going to be checking out UCI Varsity taking on Team Ambition Power. So a huge matchup here in the Noxus group is going to have some big implications for the standing. My name's Gordo. I'm joined tonight by TDS, and we are hyped up to see who is going to end up taking this one. UCI Varsity on an absolute tear here. They have yet to drop a game in the ACL. You think it's going to start happening tonight, TDS?
Well, we're hyped up with the 8 minutes that we got because of the last minute change on the matchup. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting matchup overall. We may be seeing the first time UCI loses a match. Well, for starters, a game, and then even a match maybe. So could be a really interesting night. I'm not sure if that's going to happen because I do think that UCI has been quite strong. They've been showcasing their power so far. They have some names that people can easily recognize as well. So it's a team that already had high expectations and they are delivering on those expectations so far. So as of now, I'm feeling like they should be able to close out the night in a really, not dominant fashion, but I'm expecting them to come here, just win it out in the way that they've shown so far.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they have been on a dominant run thus far, taking on all comers and doing pretty successful at it. TA Power, you know, de facto, I love to say they're the reigning champs, right? I mean, this is the first split that ACL has gone uncapped, but back when we were still AVL, these were the guys who ended up taking the last title as TA Black. A lot of the roster changed up now. It's really only Mark Boots still here from that squad, but he was a pretty big part of it. And, you know, some of the other players still hovering around on the bench and elsewhere. So, gonna call them a spiritual successor to TA Black at this point. And excited to see how they're going to be able to fare up against UCI Varsity here. They've had a middling performance. They're 2-2, 5-4 game records so far. So, definitely looking to get a little bit of a more solid footing in the group. A win over UCI Varsity here would be very, very good for them, as it would really let them kind of step up in the overall group standings and try to get one of those top 2 spots to get seeded directly into the playoffs.
Exactly. It's mainly the expectation to try and get towards that seeded directly position that you really, really want. You don't even need to be the first. As long as you get one of the top 2, that's completely fine. So I feel like that's the approach that TA Power is going to try and get, because so far, like you've said, they have a 2-2 performance. They have done well in some games, kind of arguable in some others. So you really need to try and get a foot down, try and set yourself up and begin becoming a little bit more consistent on the side of TA Power. This could be the opportunity to try and do that, because they are against a team that, even though is strong, it's a good indicator of what you can try and accomplish in the league, right? If you beat a team that is currently unbeaten, that could at least set up good expectations for the team and begin making the question, or the questions, can TA Power be a candidate to try and win it all as well? This could be a really nice test to see and see if they can perform to the level that maybe the TA organization wants to see these sort of teams in the ACL.
Yeah, and UCI as well, one of those organizations that is looking to really compete in some of these big tournaments, looking to compete in C-Law, looking to be able to compete in NACL queues as well. And, you know, down here when they're playing in ACL, you know, the competition, it's similar, but it's not quite at that elevated level here as some of the best teams in NACL or in the C-Law circles either. So coming in here expecting to be one of the more dominant teams in the league, and so far have been, but beating them a big statement for all the players here on TA Power if they are able to do it, as we are going to get started with the picks and bans here. Immediately, the Orianna going to come out directed towards a Cinnamon Bread. Looks like it might get responded to by the Annie.
Really interesting that it starts off with a couple of mid lane bans, not against it. Well, Jay is a flex, but can still be a mid lane ban. The Rihanna is the one that surprises me the most. You have to be extra scared about a player being able or being really good on the Rihanna to ban away the champion. I do think that the champion right now is strong and underappreciated compared to where she potentially could be, but it's not a champion that I would have expected to see ban first rotation, first ban of the overall match. So really surprising to see coming. The Yuumi has been quite popular after her change. Even with her change, has been quite popular, quite strong, so not surprised to see the ban here. It's interesting though that it comes from the blue side. You typically would like to get that pick for yourself since you do get the first pick, and it's not something that you would rather or want to ban on the blue side. So surprised that it came to that. Probably they don't feel comfortable playing it just yet, so really an indicator for future matches as well in terms of the Yuumi pick.
Yeah, just looking to take away that option from Young Boy. It looks like they're going to continue to target Cinnamon Bread with the last bit of these bans. They're going to take away the LeBlanc. Now, back over to UCI's side for the bans. They did look to take away Krook's Jace, as well as that Annie that we discussed earlier on. We'll see what else they want to use to kind of round these out. You know, you generally expect to see some AD bans, some jungle bans in the current meta. There's going to be the Elise, but it means every bot laner going to be available for the time being. This is one of those big picks that folks are really prioritizing on the patch. There's the Varus lock-in. It is 13.6, so a little bit later of a patch than what we see on most competitive, but those ADs should still be high priority, and TA Power, they're going to lock the Varus right in.
Varus is still a really high priority pick. The different modes that you can play it in, the different comps that you can slot him in, makes him a really valuable champion. Surprised that we don't see maybe a little bit more focus onto the Saya champion that has gained a lot of popularity, a lot of playtime, and the safety that it provides. But still, playing for bot side is quite important as of right now, still in the meta. So not surprised to see this sort of more lane dominant oriented AD carries that can try and push the issue and try and control the bot side. You get the Caitlyn on the side of UCI with the Karma. That just goes to show they want to run the bot lane as easily as possible, and they are going to poke you, to outrange you, and to out damage you. I'm not sure what you can pair the Varus here to try and fight it. Maybe you go for something, I was going to say, something aggressive. You commit to try and killing these champions because they are squishy, and that is a better approach than trying to contest push, because realistically, there's not many champions that can win against Caitlyn Karma.
Absolutely true, and TA Power, of course, they do have to bring in a substitute AD carry here for this match. They are running Heretic in the bot lane, so going to be prioritizing getting some comfort for him in the form of this Varus. They're going to pair it up with the Nautilus for I'm a Newbie. That's going to be facing up against this Caitlyn Karma duo that UCI have already drafted. TA now likely going to want to take a jungler to round out the first round of picks and bans, and they are going to get Bad's Lee Sin to round things out here. So pretty traditional draft so far. Looking for some early power here for TA. UCI threatening to grab the Olaf, and they're going to take it.
And flex potential right there with the Olaf could be top lane, can still be played in the jungle. Not a bad option. I really like that it's coming in with the Karma as well. You have a support to provide for this Olaf to be as strong as possible, to dash in, to get his as easy of a time as he needs to go into the fight. Now, well, I'm waiting to see what happened, but with the draft so far in mind, it's pretty straightforward. The AD carries, the supports, and the junglers being already selected. It's maybe going to be an attempt to give a good counter matchup in the top lane, as we typically see, since it's what people do prefer to have on the red side. But it's...
We've been trolled, TBS.
Yeah,
We've been trolled just a little, just a smidge of trolling here. As UCI's on the blue side, TA Power's on the red. It's UCI that's locked in the Lee Sin for Mike Young and the Varus Nautilus for Gorka and Young Boy. TA Power taking Caitlyn Karma for Heretic and I Am a Newbie, and this Olaf probably for Krook now. Like, I'm pretty convinced that that's going to be going towards the top lane. That is his most played, not quite as much of a bad champion, at least I don't think of it that way. And that's not talking about quality, that's talking about player. As we will see how that one ends up getting utilized, but I'm pretty confident it's going to be heading up there into top, as the rest of the bans do come on through now with our corrected teams.
It makes the way that the matchup was going to be a little bit different, because like you're pointing out now, I think Olaf up being a much more potential top lane pick makes the jungle matchup a little bit different. The way that it works is still the same for the Karma, but the way that we're going to see the early game and things like that, it's going to change. I would say though, interesting that UCI opted into this sort of like lane dynamic when they could just try and run the bot lane. So surprised that they are opting into this, but still kind of fun. And they moved in immediately. Gragas pick potentially for the jungle, can still be a mid laner, and Ari Akali to respond. That is quite a bit of dive potential as well as magical damage. This also means that UCI wants to try and run the early game as heavily as possible. Like, they want to dominate the early game as hard as they can.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, TDS, but now that the 8-0 team's moving over to the blue side, I like their draft a whole lot more. But no, but still, love to see these picks sort of coming through here, as we're going to get that Akali in the top lane to face off against this Olaf. A Gragas lock in here, now going to be going over to bad in the jungle, and they're going to last pick Mark Boots' Silas to face off against this Ahri. He's got some solid ultimates to steal. Still love to see an Akali ultimate in the hands of the Silas. The Chains of Corruption with the depth charge, those are going to be pretty good tools as well if Mark Boots can find good angles to utilize them coming into these mid-game fights.
I honestly really like TAP's comp for late game skirmishes, as well as even mid game skirmishes. They have a lot of champions that can be enabled in the mid game effectively with how their comp was kind of connected and figured out by themselves. The Gragas are really good potential engager, but also disengager in case UCI wants to force the issue a little bit too much. And then you can flex this out really, really well, because I bring this point to you, Gordo. Olaf, yes, we think top lane, but you can put him in the jungle and mid lane as well. You can put the Gragas in the mid lane and in the top lane as well. And then the Silas too, in the same way you can flex it out. There's matchups that you can play in each position that I would like to see if TAP would be willing to try and approach that flex potential. I don't think it's it's going to happen, but it would be really great to try and flex out their draft that way. Even support can do that, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely options for them to try to make some moves around like that, and I would like to see it. I do think, though, it's just the champion mastery, right, that ends up making a big difference here. You know, Kruk, he's got so many games with the Olaf already this season. I wouldn't even say been heavily counterpicked by this Akali. I mean, you know, she'll be able to farm at a moderate range, but it's not really like she's going to hard counter the Olaf or anything. Will be pretty reliant on that mobility to get out of the way once he starts ghosting and running her down, but not going to be like an impossible matchup to play out. Same thing now. They get the last pick, counter pick here. They could have rotated things around if they wanted to, but they end up taking this Silas to try to face off against the Ahri from Cinnamon Bread. This is a pick that I associate with Cinnamon Bread a lot. I think a lot of the times I've seen him on the stream, he's been playing the Ahri. Pretty talented on that pick as well, though I've seen plenty of Mark Boots Silas games as well. So this is going to be a fun skill matchup to watch play out in the mid lane.
I agree. At least in the mid lane, you can try and see the outplay potential. Even top lane wise, like you were bringing up, if it ends up being Akali against the Olaf, it's a matchup that you can try and play as skillfully as possible, because typically the Olaf would want to be in matchups where there's no sort of CC, right? Or where there's CC, so that you can kind of go over it and be able to take advantage of the lack of extra play that the other champion has, because the CC is ineffective against the Olaf. Akali doesn't have that issue because she's burst damage. So you're essentially going to play around if I can evade the access and then be able to burst out the Olaf, or if I fail, the Olaf just kills me and runs me down. That's sort of the matchup that I'm expecting to see in top lane, and it could be really, really fun. Like, I'm expecting camera to pan there quite a bit. Same with the mid lane. Even bot lane seems to potentially have a lot of action depending on how aggressive UCI wants to play it. And I hope they do try and force it a lot with Mike Young coming down bot lane, because this 3v3 that they can get with the Nautilus and the Lee Sin can be a little bit stronger than TAP's early on, especially with the tankiness of the Nautilus.
And that top lane matchup, it can be really swingy here, right? I expect to see a lot of focus up there from both teams, specifically because of how much influence this Olaf can have over how a lot of the game's going to end up playing out, right? If you get to a point where UCI cannot actually take out this Olaf in a quick and efficient manner, he's just going to run over this whole game. I mean, you're not going to be able to stop him. You know, you've got lots of CC tools, lots of lockdown tools, and none of them mean anything in the face of Ragnarok. So gonna be on UCI to make sure that this Olaf, at the very least, doesn't get ahead. You don't need to necessarily shut him all the way down. You just need to be able to have answers to work through his health bar between the picks that you've already drafted for yourself. And given that you're a pretty pick burst focused composition, that just means that you need to have enough to melt him down.
100%. That's why I think the early game, UCI drafted for that early game potential, it feels like. You want to be as hard as possible on that early game, first 15 minutes. You want to see Mike Young just trying to destroy the living hell out of TAP's jungle and even lanes as much as possible. You want to rotate with Cinnamon Bread, work as a unit, the two of them, so that you can just get as much lead as possible. I would love to see the Akali get as far ahead as possible, but if they can just destroy bot lane as effectively as possible, that still is a way to try and get a win condition, because Varus can be really explosive as well with his damage, and even without CC hitting onto the Olaf, if he goes lethality, that can be burst enough to be able to kill the Olaf. So I hope that UCI utilizes the first 15 minutes as effectively as possible. They work as a unit with the jungle, the mid lane, and the support particularly, and then just try and run the game over as big of a snowball as possible if they can.
See if they're going to be able to do that. We're going to throw it to a quick break here while we get loaded onto the Rift for game number 1, but we are going to be right back to see UCI Varsity take on TA Power. Welcome back, everybody, to tonight's broadcast of Aegis Champions League, where we have got University of California Irvine Varsity taking on Team Ambition Power. What is sure to be solid best of three, an important matchup for the group standings, as all intergroup or intra-group matchups are. Only get to play them a couple of times here, and your seating in that particular group will matter a lot for getting to playoffs here. UCI, with a win tonight, will come pretty dang close to locking it. Definitely a lot to play for both sides.
Honestly, feel like they should be kind of locked in. It's just securing the last couple of, but UCI, with the way that they've been, feels like should be able to accomplish it. Now, we didn't get any surprises with the way that the draft went. It's perfectly fine with the positions that each went. So, kind of sad that nothing was changed in that regard, but maybe it's another thing. Maybe it's an attempt here to just play as comfortable as possible with those picks, right?
Yeah, for sure. A lot of bait pings coming out in the bottom lane. Wonder what that's about, as it does look like both teams are going to be taking a pretty standard start here. A little bit of vision secured to check for invades, but Rookie looking like, nah, he's just going to throw a ward and return to top lane. Nothing too crazy, at least to start this one off.
They just want to have enough vision in their favor. And they did a good job at trying to keep at least the upper part well informed on their side so that nothing bad can end up happening to their solo laners. On bot lane, they are going to perma push. So I'm not like worried that a big bad thing can happen to TA Power. But on top side, they need to be careful about how they approach certain things. So this vision that they have to try and keep tabs on Mike Young is a really good idea.
Yeah, it's an interesting path from Mike to start things off. He does go for the birds into the red buff, now into the Krugs, looking to pay a visit towards bot lane early on, perhaps. So something for Heretic and Avanubi be cognizant of. They do hit level 2 first and are getting some nice poke in onto this Nautilus.
I'm really curious now, like you're mentioning, maybe it's an early gang onto the bot lane. Yes, it's not going to be the level 2 cheese that you do get, but it's still looking like that. They do have vision, so they know that he's there.
They do, and Mike Young spotted out. They're going to immediately have to back away here, so he's going to relieve a tiny bit of pressure, but is otherwise kind of setting himself a bit behind here. Bad, meanwhile, was able to use this time. He clears topside and recall.
No.
Here's the engage. Heretic going to have to flash back away. Mike Young advancing forward. Flash Tempest picks up first blood for Young Boy and cleans up the kill on a newbie. That's a 2-0 start for UCI in the bot lane.
They read it really well until they didn't. They had the right mind and they went back because they did see the Lee Sin, but the tiny bit moving forward that they did after that, even though the ward was still there, with the force from maybe NBA Junkboy, it was just so easy to get it done. The hook hits the Caitlyn, even though she flashed away. It's a flash that you can follow up, and everyone committed the flash, by the way. You can see 3 flashes will come through, but here, they do the right play by moving up. But they still don't expect maybe the comeback. They still stay in a really bad position. Heretic forces the CS too much, and you can see everyone commits the flash. But it's the perfect opportunity to just get the kill. As soon as the Caitlyn gets hooked, she's dead.
Yeah, a rough call in the 90 caliber net for sure. As Mike Young making another visit towards mid lane. Ward hop forward. Mark Boots has to flash away from the charm and will be low on HP anyways. Probably going to be a recall forced out of this Silas before too long. Is bad. He arrives, but he's kind of just going to have to watch them take this Scuttle Crab unless they want to go for something really aggressive. Calling up the bot lane. That's actually going to force a retreat out of Mike Young. Hex Flash being channeled. They can't interrupt it. He used the body slam already.
That actually is so funny. I was ready to see someone stop the Nautilus, and he just stays there, channeling the Hex Flash to be able to run away. Gets out. A really good play.
Krookie really feeling confident here with the shield, and rightfully so. Picks up a solo kill up against Elated. Nicely played.
Rightfully so, like you're mentioning, the shield coming in a really nice timing to deny a lot of the damage, and then it's so easy to persecute down this Akali when she uses all her cooldowns. Really good solo kill in the top lane, takes away some of the pressure that we were seeing on the other side of the map. Not to a really high degree, but it's really good that they are at least able to have a winning lane at this point in the game.
For sure. Tough it out, making a big difference there. As Elated Now going to get snagged again. He's going to have to be very careful, or Kruk is going to just run at him once again, as now 3v3 breaks out in the bottom lane. Youngboy's the one who's locked down, but it's actually going to be a kill picked up on a Heretic. Meanwhile, the solo kill is completed in top. Bad's going to have to flash away. This is a losing 2-on-2 for TA Power as they have to retreat farther. It's a big piercing arrow from Gorica to finish off on a Bad. It's going to be 4-3 on the scoreboard.
And talk about a good amount of damage coming in from that piercing arrow. But once again, even though bot lane is going so well for UCI, the top lane is the one that is taking the full brunt of the damage. Cookie Kruk is doing an amazing job denying this Akali, killing her for 2 times in a row. This means also that she loses out on a lot of farm that you don't really want to. And this engage, I like the idea. I think maybe if they commit a little bit more together to the first target, because I think that they kind of separated targets at a certain point, they probably get this in a much more clean fashion. But at the end of the day, it's still a 2-for-1, so you cannot critique that much the way that UCI played it. How did that hit, actually?
Gragas is a big boy. That's how
I guess.
He's got a big hitbox. It just gets snagged on the back end there from the piercing arrow. Is Cookie Kruk doing a great job in top lane, though. Has successfully punished Elated. The wave's coming back into him now as well, so not even gonna miss too much CS. Should probably be able to build himself up a little lead here. That's a point of power that TA can play around, no pun intended. We talked about how much snowballing through top could matter. So Elated is here to put some pressure on a Bad. Mike Young going to snag away the big chicken. And now a 3 versus 2 around mid, going to force Mark Boots and a bit Bad play on their heels.
And this is a bit of what we were talking about in draft with moving around the map as much as possible. Because they do have control of bot lane, they are able to free up NBA and Youngboy in a really good way. And he's able to move towards the lanes that maybe are feeling a little bit more pressure, like top lane, or that want to try and stomp as heavily as possible, like mid lane, we're going against Marpux. So I really like the way that UCI is trying to approach this in the aggressive manner that they are doing, and try and just gain as many victories as possible, like we were talking about in this early game.
Youngboy stepping up, throws out the dredge line, does get the lockdown onto Newbie, who's losing health fast. Gorica gonna finish off that kill in the 2-on-2, and now Heretic gonna have to be very careful about getting potentially dove, doing his best to clear out the wave, and it looks like UCI, they're just going to target the dragon.
And this is a really good showing of the two sides of the coin, that is the Caitlyn Karma lane. You could even say Caitlyn Lux lane as well to a certain degree, even though that's a better setup. But if you're winning the lane, you haven't died, or you don't take that much pressure, that lane just destroys you, because they just constantly push, they damage you from such a safe distance, and then you cannot do anything against them. But when they lose at any point, they give up 1 kill really early on, they begin losing everything, because they are squishy champions. 1 hook from the Nautilus turns into essentially a one-shot potential, or not a one-shot potential, but a kill potential from the Varus, because of the amount of damage that they have and the fact that they are not tanky. They just die really quickly. They don't even have heal. So it's a really nice example of how to take advantage of the Caitlyn lane and how volatile they can be.
Sure, and now just getting more and more gold into Gorica's Varus. Does appear to be going for that on-hit build, and it's just clearing out the wave super effectively here. They do cash out for the Rift Herald on the top side from TA Power, so doing a good job of trading halves of the map here, but the end result is that they are still falling behind in gold.
Well, at least with this Herald, I can see them putting even more gold on Cookie Kruk, right? And that way, we were talking about how the Olaf, if he's really far ahead, can be the point to play this game out, because even though CC is there, there's not a lot of ways to kill him as quickly as possible, unless you're really far ahead as well. So probably could be the potential play to try and put TAP out of the hole that they currently are.
Definitely could here. We'll see how Bad is going to path. No. He's been focusing on the bot lane so far. Has not been able to see a lot of success for his troubles. Well, on the bottom side, will be clearing up towards top as he finishes off some more of those camps, but looks like Mike Young might be paying a visit to top.
Probably thinking a similar thing to a bit Bad, where if you give kills to this Olaf, it's a way for TAP to try and come back and try and play this game. But if you kill him, that can just make TAP's life even worse than it already is.
Job by Cookie to avoid getting hit by that Shuriken. Oh, no. There's another engage in the bot lane, and Newbie might just be dead. Tries to flash away, but the root lands anyway, and Gorica goes on a killing spree. Now ready to fight up against Heretic. He's already got the shield bow completed, and those extra stats make all the difference. So they're going to be forced back out underneath the turret. It's another kill for UCI.
And that's the other thing. You don't need to have Mike Young in the bot lane anymore because they can do that by themselves. They don't need the jungler anymore there to be able to get any kills onto either the Karma or the Caitlyn. Once again, they force it really, really well, and we're going to see maybe a small fight in the top lane. There is the Herald. Oh,
dive freaking out, but Young Boy's tanking here. He's going to end up going down at least once. Good job by Newbie to not steal away that kill, but now Newbie's going to be the one left alone up against Gorica. Going to have his wits about him there. So Rift Herald crashes in top, gets some more gold into Kooky Krook, as well as a bit bad, but still just going to be forcing waves in over and over again. They know Mike Young is in the area, so they can't commit too heavily.
Mike Young has gone to the wolf, so maybe this is an opportunity to actually commit for the dive. And I think they're,
a flash in from bad. They want this, and they're going to take it. Solo kill there. Krook ends up getting it, and now they could even pressure for first turret here. They did successfully force Gorka away the bot lane turret.
I think that, yeah, they get it. Right now, Mike Young was clearing the wolves, even though NBA Youngboy was hovering topside, already way too late for that. And I gotta say, elated, way too disrespectful with his positioning. Same with Mike Young to a certain degree as well. I understand you want to try and keep your uptime with clears as good as possible, but you know that play can come through. If you see that Gragas coming to you, he has flash. You know he has flash. He's going to flash onto you and kill you. So really big disrespect coming in from the side of UCI in that particular play. They're still ahead thanks to the difference in bot lane that you can see right now with the gold div. But it's those points that you cannot give up because the Olaf is going to be one of those big scary parts of TAP's comp.
Definitely will be. It is going to be something to be afraid of. You know, this is the kind of the lose condition for UCI, right? It doesn't matter how much gold you put into Gorica if Krook's just going to run right at you and not be able to be stopped by anyone. Now, maybe the kiting ability, the Varus, will make enough of a difference if he can just get some of that damage to be able to work through. But quick armor item from Olaf will be the end of that. Is Cinnamon Bread going to be forced to use the Spirit Rush, diving back in, trying to get some damage onto bad, lands the charm. Here comes Gorica and Young Boy. There's the ultimate, but it's not going to do much to save him as Dredgeline connects. And now there's the depth charge landed onto Mark Boots. They do not want to give this one up. Kooky Krook is coming in from the bottom side, but he's going to be in 1 versus 4 pretty soon as Mark Boots is forced to flash away. And TA Power, they have to give up the play. They have to give up the mid lane plates as well.
It's one basic away from getting that kill into Mark Boots or one more arrow. Still, they get in a situation that was looking kind of just blowing the ultimate out of Cinnamon Bread. They commit to the play and they get a really nice kill onto a bit bad. Yes, Gorica did have to blow the flash, so now he's a little bit more susceptible to getting collapsed and dying. But the overall punish is what I like to see from UCI because they understand that their comp needs to be this kind of aggressive or this sort of aggressiveness early on to get as much as possible. Really good flash there and the hook as well. That was a perfect hook animation by NBA Youngboy.
Yeah, he's got to be pretty happy about that one. Pulls himself pretty much right out of the explosive casket. A great flash from Gordon as well to put him on the favorable side. Just gets pushed into the wave and can get a lot more damage on the Mark Boots as a result. Still just waiting for that Rod of Aegis to scale up. Nice trade up against Cinnamon Bread here, though, holding his own in the lane up against the Ahri. Mark Boots hasn't got to get involved in too many plays yet, but he has kept himself safe and has kept himself even with the pace of the game.
But it's the kind of thing that I think is taking away a little bit from TAP. The fact that Mark Boots really hasn't found his stride at all this game, hasn't been able to put pressure into the Ahri, hasn't been able to put pressure into anyone realistically. So you kind of have a non-existing lane and then a lane that is taking the punishment as heavily as possible. Oh, I think
Heretic.
He has flash.
He does. Young Boy is still chasing him down anyway. He's kind of stuck on the wrong side of dodge now. Avoids the dredge line. I don't think that matters. Kooky Krook is teleporting in to actually take the fight. The flashback out from Heretic, and now maybe it's Young Boy who's bitten off more than he can chew. It's going to be 1 kill, and now they're going to focus in on the Gorica. Can they get the shutdown? They give it over to Mark Boots, but Kooky Krook is going to drop as a result. And now with Cinnamon Bread arriving to the party, it's going to be easy to clean up for UCI. They get themselves a nice cleanup of 4 kills just in trade for 2.
And we see the perfect showing of what Kooky Krook can try and accomplish in some fights, where nobody can stop him, so he just runs in. They get a lot of damage onto Heretic to start it up. I think they kind of made the play longer than it needed to be, and that is why at the end we do see the 4v5 that it ends up happening, because a bit bad wasn't there. As you can see, he's right here doing the Herald. Can they get this, actually?
Oh, that's a smite
There's a
coming
lot of-
through very early. That does not heal you anymore, my friend. And Bad now going to get hooked back in. Can get shielded over the wall by Newbie. It might be enough to get him out of there. That along with Happy Hour. Bad does just keep his life, but that's just a tiny little prize in comparison to the Rift Herald.
He used the smite in some way, but at the end he just made it so that they don't even have smite themselves to be able to get the herald at the end. I don't. Just quickly looking at the Olaf on the side, but yeah, as you can see on the play, maybe it took a little bit too long. Obviously, you wanted to try and force Heretic into a really bad spot before using the hook, but because at the start of it doesn't connect, Heretic is able to flash away. Still, they get the kill because of the amount of CC that they do have. But this is the thing, you kill Heretic here, but now the Olaf will still run onto you. Nobody can stop him. No, the ultimate didn't stop him. The extra damage just come through, so they are able to kill it. And this sort of fights that, even though they do end up winning it, may end up looking different if the jungler is there. A bit bad wasn't even close to that fight. He was on the other side of the map. So if the Gragas is there to provide the extra damage before the fight even ends, and they get a kill onto Gorica and NBA Junkboy way earlier, they probably are able to fight that fight a little bit more effectively.
Definitely end up swinging things in the future here, as that's a flash engage from Youngboy. They locked down on a Heretic, and there's no way you're getting out this time, man. He drops in the mid lane, and it's a 5 versus 4 on the map. Is Mike Young gonna have to flash himself, though? Maybe bit off more than he can chew up against Newbie and Bad, as they are just trying to keep the pressure up in mid lane, but they are losing their own turrets so much faster. Here comes the Rift Herald trying to crash into the inner, and big deep flank from TA Power. Will they be able to get themselves anything back? Mark Boots steps forward. Here comes the rest of the squad. They're going to get snared up by Chains of Corruption, and Bad gets melted before he can do anything. Gorica is Krook, but he's going to get melted as well, and it's just a disaster for TA Power as UCI advance forward, cut down more members, and still have the Rift Herald for an additional charge. They're going to break open the base here at 17 minutes.
He just came back.
Heretic, he can't get a break, man. Gorica takes him out again.
What is it with NBA Junkboy and killing Heretic tonight? What did he do to you, man? What is going on with this Caitlyn? Heretic is sobbing, and he's just living his worst nightmare this game. 1-6, they don't allow the Caitlyn to even breathe, and they don't get the inhibitor, which is a good thing. But they still are running this game so much. Not yet a 10k gold lead, but super far ahead. And they are going to get the next dragon, by the way.
It's going to be hard to deny that to them. They're going to be able to get whatever they want when they've got this kind of lead on the map. Especially with all these mid turrets falling away. It just gives them so much pressure into the side lanes. We got Mark Boots getting caught again. He's going down.
Yeah, I was going to comment on the replay, but Mark Boots just takes care of the fact that he ends up dying again, pushing the waves on the side lane. And there's the thing, Akali may have struggled against the Olaf, but not against the Sylas. The Sylas hasn't done anything big against the Akali either. So really good kill they get on the side, secures the dragon now 100%. And good thing to see is also the fact that nobody's overcommitting in any other plays to give up kills. Like usually Cinnamon Bread was on the side, doesn't go anywhere weird to try and maybe get vision or maybe see if they are going to respond in any other way. Takes the safe route and doesn't die. Perfect mid lane play.
For sure. Now setting up through mid here. Going to be Mark Boots just trying to catch the waves, making sure that nothing does end up taking off this inhibitor, but the push around the map from UCI, they're going to take out this bot inner. You can see Krook did well in lane. He's got no damage on his outer turret, but UCI are happy to just take the whole bottom side of the map. And it looks like that's all they really need.
It's been really a game of kind of contrasting styles, right? One focus on the top lane, one focus on the bot lane, and let's see who ends up winning. I kind of think we're getting a good showing of who is more favorable than the other, because bot lane is not only destroying, but we just saw a fight where the Olaf tried to kill Gorica, wasn't able to, and the Varus was able to outlast. Oh wait, I had to talk.
Nice stolen away depth charge. Mark Boots going to step forward, and it's going to be hard for Gorica to get out of this. Ouch. Big shutdown gold over to Mark Boots for the second time this game. He's gotten both shutdowns on Gorica to try to accelerate him ahead. Going to get the fully stacked up Roa here soon as well. Mark Boots is where they want to put some investment into.
I agree. I think giving more gold to this Sylas can end up making fights a little bit easier for the Olaf particularly, because he takes away the space or the attention that the Olaf would take as well. So you're able to at least have two big threats that will be diving in instead of just one. Now, I'm still not sure if that's going to be quite enough to put a lot of pressure onto the side of UCI. But if you're going to start somewhere, it's certainly killing Gorica and giving up or getting that big shot down.
Multiple members now visiting top lane. UCI, they know what lane that they've left alone for the rest of the game, and they want to change that here to pick up some more of that standing gold. Kruk, though, still defending his turf, is there to clear out the wave.
Trying as hard as possible to not allow this turret to die, but it's probably going to die in a couple of minutes. Maybe not now, but he's actually TPing there. Yeah, he really wants to protect it.
Doesn't want to let it go down here. We'll see what he can do. He pops the Ragnarok. He's willing to brawl up against Youngboy. Has to be careful not to let that drop, and does get a couple of autos in order to do it. Now it's dropped off, but it's Mike Young who sections off from the rest of the team. Gets hit by the ace in the hole and snared up. They should be able to take him down. Meanwhile, on the other side, Mark Boots wins the fight. 1 versus 3. Takes down Cinnamon Bread. It's a 2-for-0 fight for TA Power. And Bad lands a nice explosive cast to knock Youngboy back into the team. One more body slam. Does get the knockback, but Gorka's there to rain down arrows and step them back. But Kruk stepping up, throwing out the undertows, looking to get onto Gorka.
So
Can he do it? As he is going to get melted down, but Bad has gone in for the deep flank. He's going to lose his life for it. And Elated is there to clean him up on the Akali. Elated and Gorica fight it out in a disadvantaged scenario and win it for UCI.
It started off as a 4v5. It ended up going much harder for UCI, but at the end they are able to just outplay the living hell out of TAP, and with all the members dead except for Mark Boots on the side of TAP, and instead all alive for UCI until NBA Youngboy comes back in 6 seconds, it's going to be a Baron. They have this smite in their favor, something that TAP doesn't. I don't know what Mark Boots will try and attempt here. He has no way to stop this. Yeah.
Sure, Elated now clearing, going to be able to smite out that Baron is Mike Young. That's going to be Baron buff for UCI. It was looking a little messy there for a while, but they actually end up taking it here.
The funny thing is that I think UCI played this out really, really well, because they covered the aggro of the turret with also the timing on the ultimate from Kruk. But the commitment here from the rest of TP is what really brings this fight forward. The TP from the Sylas gets a really quick kill onto the Ahri, and then the other members were collapsing onto Mike Young, so they tried to make it so that they had numbers advantage immediately. But the longer the fight went, the more it was played out by UCI, the better it became, because Gorica is super far ahead. Look at this. At this point, he has to stack the Rage Blade so he can get even more value out of his auto attacks. And then they already committed a lot of summoners and abilities to try and killing them in the previous attempt. So because it went so long, Paris just got much more value compared to what TAP had, and then the teleport to close it out.
And it's still absolutely huge now, sitting at 3 items and a stopwatch, not going to let themselves get caught out any further. So that's going to be the hook landed onto Bad, already chunked to about half HP. Kruk now has to solo frontline as Bad loses even more. Ace in the hole to get a tiny chunk, but there's no AD on this Caitlyn. So that's going to be the Ragnarok popped. Kruk has to find a way to fight here, but he's just getting melted quickly. They interrupt. He goes into the stasis, but is going to get melted by Gorica as soon as he's out. Heretic steps forward to execute the Gale Force, but they just get demolished by Cinnamon Bread and Elated's damage. That's going to be 4 members down for TA Power, and UCI are going to look to take them down in game number 1. A fancy flash from Mike Young to kick Mark Boots back into the team. And the ace is claimed.
Well, we didn't see anything like that all game long, so why not bring it out in the last minute of the game to try and have your fancy moment? But that fight, it felt like they just poked out the side of TAP, even though they don't have a poking comp, and then just went in with the damage that they had and were able to get the win. Really good game overall by UCI. Great early game dominance to just get a really big lead early on and be able to close out the game. Maybe even pad the stats here.
Trying hard to keep it going, but TA Power, they can't stop Gorica from hitting the Nexus. California Irvine take themselves game number 1. It was a little back and forth there for a while, but by the end of it, they have a 12k gold lead and a 25-minute win.
And it really was a battle of contrasting styles, trying to put more pressure on one side and then the other team putting more pressure on the other. But it's always the argument, right? One side has one person to kill and the other has 2. So by simple logic, the side that kills the bot lane gets more gold, gets more value, and also the early objectives. We didn't really talk much about the fact that UCI got control over the dragons in almost all of the game. They could have gotten the soul in that fight. They just won the fight, so they won the game. It wasn't even needed. But they got control over the early objectives. The herald that they got on the side of TAP really didn't accomplish much when you see how much value it got in the overall context of the game. And then Gorica just run over with the game because with the control that the side of UCI already had, he just simply went into fights and was able to out-attack as much as possible and as much as he wanted.
Yeah, Gorica really showing his veterancy and experience there in this game, plays out some of these situations incredibly well, wins the lane pretty hard alongside Young Boy there, and is able to make some calls on those later fights. Like, it especially feels like when he's kiting back and calls for the TP there from Elated, really feels like that's a Gorica call there. Elated, you could see, was channeling the recall, was farming up the bottom wave, was not planning to TP into that fight up until the moment that Gorica stops and turns and fights. They make that call as a team together, and it ends up really stopping what could have been a moment that TA Power seized on to come back in that game.
Could be a really good opportunity, because if they win that, it probably turns into Baron, and now you can cover up that big deficit that you already have with Baron, with bounties, getting a dragon as well for yourself. So really important moment, maybe a little bit of a sleeper opportunity from UCI that was given up, since they kind of dropped the ball in how they were approaching it. I liked the first attempt, but then it kind of got messier and messier. But it really shows that TAP is not necessarily a bad team. It's just that UCI exploited them in a really effective manner.
Absolutely. Here now, TA Power with side selection for game number 2. We'll see how they want to change things up, try to get themselves a win on the board. The first win anybody has taken up against UCI Varsity, all split long. We'll see if they're able to do it after a quick break here when we come back for game number 2. To tonight's broadcast of the ACL, where we have got UCI Varsity sticking on the blue side for game number 2, as it is going to be a red side snag there for TA Power. They want to keep the sides the same. They think they can change things up coming into this game number 2, maybe grab themselves a win after a pretty solid game 1 performance there from UCI.
It's an interesting decision, not because it's a bad idea. I do think that if you're going to play how TAP did with trying to focus topside, red side is probably the lane, the side that you want to try and select, since it gives you the better counter pick opportunity. But much more times than less, we do see teams wanting to change sides, change things up, maybe want to try and get their first pick as easily as possible. And from the previous game, I feel like they need to shake up a couple of things, because it really felt like they didn't have a lot of agency in a lot of the game. Particularly a bit bad. Tried to go for plays, but really didn't get a lot of opportunities to go for that. And in part, it was because the lanes weren't just kind of completely destroyed apart from top lane. So hopefully this time around, they can get a little bit more control in their lanes.
Yeah, for sure. See how they want to change up this draft this time around. Last game, they were really focusing their bans kind of across the board, right? They took away the Jace, they took away the Annie, they took away the Elise. See if maybe they want to dedicate some of those towards ADCs here, as that first pick Varus was very effective there for the side of Gorica. So far, UCI keeping their bans the same. TA Power doing the same here. We'll see. Yet to see any changes.
Maybe we see this time around a Lee Sin ban by TAP, or they snag away the Lee Sin if they give up the Varus early on. Could be the play that we kind of end up seeing happening. But so far with the same bans, we're kind of directed into a similar situation. It's going to be the Lees.
Yeah, same bans as this is where UCI first picked Varus last game. This is where UCI first picks Varus this game. Not going to see any need to change things there for the Anteaters. Let's see how TA Power want to respond this time around. They took Caitlyn Karma here in draft number 1. Didn't end up working out for them in the bot lane.
Exactly. So probably this time around, like we were saying, I would like to see the Lee Sin here, because I think that if you get Lee Sin with maybe Caitlyn, you can try and play a little bit more aggressive with a control bot lane that can try and push the issue. Saya was mentioned in the previous draft. She's a safe AD carry, has the value of the ultimate, and you don't need to commit a lot more resources into her, especially also with Rakan being a little bit more high priority in bot lane as well. You can try and play the lovers duo and get a lot of value down there. It's instead going to be the Olaf, so maybe they try to actually play for the flex still, make them think that Olaf can go jungle, can go top lane, and then try and give a good matchup up there for Cookie Crook.
Yeah, Cookie Crook really loves this Olaf, has been spamming it quite a bit in solo queue. Had a great game on it last time as well, got multiple solo kills. Just, you know, things went off the rails in the bottom lane, and you can just accelerate so much faster through that lane. That's why everybody plays towards it, TDS. You can get those dragons, you can get those double kills. It's what you want to do. UCI, they're going to take the Akali once again. Wonder if they're still intending to play it up against the Olaf. Didn't work out last time for Elated, but maybe he thinks he's got what it takes to change up the fortunes of that matchup. UCI now. Last draft, this is already a little bit of a difference. They didn't take Akali until the end last time. Do they want to snag that Nautilus? I mean, it was so good for them before on Young Boy. Do they want it, or do they want the Lee Sin? Can't have them both. They want neither.
I think Jarvan was banned in the first game, right? I think they did ban it away in the second phase. Yeah. So now they snag it away for themselves. I like the Jarvan because of locking down the Olaf as hard as possible. And you can do the same with the Saya. So already has good impact against both of these champions. Does open up now the opportunity for maybe if TAP wants to run with the Lee Sin again, they can, or with the Lee Sin they can go for the Gragas once again if they really feel like it wasn't a bad champion in the previous game. And I don't think it necessarily was bad. It just nothing kind of helped him out that much. But it's instead going to be the Thresh, a champion that we've seen a rise in popularity as well compared to other champions. Has the big potential, has the Lantern to keep some safe. And for the Cataclysm, if you're able to lock the Olaf inside of the Cataclysm with the Lantern, at least you can try and pull him out and maybe go a little bit aggressive after that.
And the Xayah too, right? The Cataclysm is one of the ways you can lock down both of those champions in a way that other champions can't, because, you know, they can't get over terrain. I know Xayah looks like she jumps up really high in the Feather Star, but you still can't get out of Cataclysm. You're still stuck in those rocks.
Yep.
Yeah, I really like the Thresh into Jarvan, both because you could pull folks out of Cataclysm, like you said, but also Flay is a great tool to interrupt the flag and drag combo, right? If you're coming down for a bot lane gank as the Jarvan, you got to watch out for the old X special plays, looking back to like Season 3, Season 4 League of Legends.
That's some old ones.
It's an old one, but I mean, that's all that I think of when I see this combo. X special like single-handedly took Jarvan priority down. Just by being able to constantly flay those attempted combos. And something that in the modern day is still very relevant. If you can get him out of that one, it eliminates a lot of the power that Jarvan's going to be able to do to you. I have to keep an eye on whether or not I'm a newbie is going to be able to pull those off. As more support bans come across, the Nautilus taken off the board, so is the Renata. Meanwhile, jungle bans coming in from UCI.
Interesting that they ban away the Nautilus. I understand the Renata because of the ultimate value. Obviously, it's one champion that you don't want to try and face. The Nautilus, though, you can also try and play out with Thresh as well. So you would kind of argue that it's fine to give it up if you're already playing the Thresh. But still, I think NBA Jogboy kind of gave a pretty big statement in the previous game. And that's why he deserves the ban in this rotation. It's the Poppy going to be the jungle. I'm pretty sure it's going to be in the jungle, can still be flexed, but the Poppy here, so adding even more champions to the night dashes going in. So Jarvan and Akali already feeling a little bit of a harder time to try and approach TAP's comp. And with this, I'm not sure what they go for, because even though I like the Ahri, and I think the Ahri in the previous game was really good, against a champion that denies dashes, it makes your life really hard. And I'm not sure if you want to try and play into that. Heimerdinger to trying to follow up with the Barrows poke.
All right, like the poke focused bot lane there does mean that they're going to have less engaged tools. Probably going to want something out of top lane, unless this isn't even this might be Akali top again instead of Akali mid. Could be. Well, looks like they're looking at the Cassante though. Would give them a little bit of that frontline power to go with the Jarvan. It is going to get locked on in for UCI, so it looks like they want to flex the Akali towards mid this time. What does Mark Boots want to play into it? Could be another Sylas angle.
Sylas, I wouldn't be against it. Talia was Hubbard, wouldn't be against it either, because now it's just closing out on denying dashes in the best way possible as well. But with what you already have, I would like something much more consistent in terms of damage and in terms of scaling potential. The picture feels like a really good choice. Viger wouldn't be a bad idea because of the event horizon. Another one, the Syndra, is something also that I wouldn't be against, but it seems like, yeah, they're closing out with denying as much dashes as possible. So now Jarvan, Akali, and Cassante are not going to be happy trying to dash into the enemy team, because they are going to get not only stopped, but CC'd and killed in a lot of situations.
They definitely are. Talia now going to be giving them a little bit of additional roaming power, right? If you're going to play towards top lane again, which you very well might be doing, you know, this might be Xayah and Thresh just to be able to play safe and play back against this poke lane as much as you possibly can. Yep. You can head up towards top. You can get Kukikrook off to a good start once again, this time up against the Cassante. Not a terrible matchup for the Olaf by any means. Will scale up and be pretty strong eventually, but hey, at least you got a little bit of true damage in there. At least he's a target that you can effectively run down. And you can also immune yourself from potentially being taken through the wall by the old all out. So some great tools there, and a lot of ways to deny what UCI is looking to do here in the form of this Poppy, right? You can interrupt your Jarvan combos in two different ways now. You can interrupt everything Akali wants to do. You can interrupt everything Cassante wants to do. Riot already put a champion in the game to counter out all the mobility TDSs. Just folks aren't willing to pick it. Bad takes it here in game number 2.
It's a champion that kind of like Senna. She isn't necessarily bad. It's just that people kind of got bored with it and decided that they don't want to play it anymore that much. And I think Poppy in this situation is so good. You know that they have already 2 dashes. The champions that they play, that they like to play, do count with having a lot of dashes. So the Poppy just fits right in so effectively in these sort of compositions to try and deny them. And it's a lot on TAP now. Their comp will take a little bit longer to spike once again, kind of like in the previous game where they didn't have a lot of early game agency. But later on, mid game, late game, they do have a lot of tools to be able to run with the game. And I like what they've drafted. It's going to be once again UCI, what they accomplish early on in the game to try and close out the game. If they can get a really big lead early on, it's still going to be really difficult for TAP to survive like the onslaught that UCI will bring. But the early game needs to be really, really good, because this comp with what TAP has drafted, I think can cancel out so much of what UCI has.
They absolutely can. And I really like the draft for TA Power, man. It's like, it's so hard to predict. I made the joke last draft, right? It's so hard to predict against the team that is now 9-0 in their game record in this league. But you know, TA, they showed some good stuff in the last game. They were able to play through top effectively. Cookie Krook's a good player, especially on this Olaf. And they have all the ingredients they need to cook themselves something up good here. But just going to have to be able to make it through, especially that laning phase in the bot lane. You know, it's a tough situation here that Heretic is coming into as an emergency sub at the last minute. Probably hasn't played with newbie a whole bunch. Maybe wasn't even expecting to play tonight up until very recently. It's a tough situation for him. It's very difficult to perform in those kind of situations, especially up against somebody like Gorica. But you can go even, if you can keep yourself safe, if you can avoid giving up too big of a lead, this feels like a draft that TA Power could take full advantage of.
100% agreed. And they give Heretic the Saya, which is one of the safer AD carries that you can play. Yes, early on, maybe you may get attacked quite a bit, but you still will get your ultimate at level 6. So as long as there's not enough of a lead that you have to worry about, that's still perfectly fine. And Saya is also one of those AD carries that even if she dies once or twice, as long as she keeps farming, she's always going to find some sort of value thanks to her execute potential as well. So I feel like the recipe for success is there for TAP. It's just if they can bring it out and they can show it to everyone here.
Yeah, once or twice, just fine, but 7 times. Maybe a few too many, and that's what we
don't need to mention that part.
For. Look, it was a tough game 1, man. Yeah. It's the reality of the situation, and it means that we're gonna be looking to see if they can either utilize Poppy to keep bot lane safe, or if they can leave them on an island and let them get out of here on their own. The Heimerdinger can play so aggressively. This is a 5-man bot game at level 1 from both teams, by the way. If you let Heimerdinger get those turrets set up in the bot lane bush closest to your side of the map, lane is just over right there. So both teams, 5-man bot, level 1. I want to see a big death sentence out of newbie and see if that can be the recipe to start things off in TA's favor. But both teams surely know this is coming, so we'll see how it gets played out.
He ends up hooking the turret and ends up losing the level 1 because of that.
Oh.
would be really funny to end up seeing that happening. But yeah, I'm excited to see how it goes. It's also kind of funny that we're going to see UCI playing the similar style of bot lane that TAP played in the previous game, with the poking, like the range advantage, the fact that they will out poke you and out just arrange you and do a lot of damage to you. And then TAP has the pick off bot lane. They throw a hook, they try and kill one of the squishes, and if it works out, great, you kind of won the lane thanks to that. But if it doesn't, then you're going to take a huge amount of damage and probably die later on.
The risk, right, is who's going to end up with the gold, who's going to end up being the focus players for the game. Once again, you know, it's a similar situation as before. If you can get the Olaf ahead, he is once again going to have plenty of targets that he can just, if he can just run right past Cassante, get on Heimerdinger Varus, that's exactly what you want to happen, right? There's not going to be much that Gorica can do. We already saw there wasn't much that Gorica could do in the last game when it ended up playing that way. Well, it really is going to come down to how they're going to be able to either shut down the Olaf early on, or how they're going to be able to play around him later on if he does end up getting going. Probably plan A is to make sure that he's not going to be quite as strong as he was in game number 1. So we'll see how that's going to end up working out. We're going to throw it to a quick break here. So we got a couple of technical difficulties stopping us from getting into the game, but we will be back as soon as we are able, as UCI takes on TA Power in the second game of the night. Welcome back, everybody. The Aegis Champions League, where UCI are up 1-0 over Team Ambition Power. EA are looking to bring themselves back in this series, looking to take themselves a second or a first win of the night and take us to a third game of the night. And here is the 5-man bot we mentioned earlier, TDS. You got to stop that Heimerdinger.
It's 5 men on one side. Oh, Young. Okay, Young. What? Actually, he may die here. He needs to
I think he's got a flash. Yeah, here comes the death sentence. Oh, the block with the turret. That was so smart, young boy.
That was so crucial, because if he doesn't put that, he didn't flash. He decides that he's not going to flash. So he's dead if that does connect. Really crucial there, but it's also the kind of thing that you're at risk here, because you didn't commit anyone. They know that they are there.
Oh, another slow on Agorica. He has to use the ghost. Nice dodge on the death sentence. But that's 2 summoners down for just 1 expended there from I'm a Newbie. TA Power, they can plant their flag as a win here.
It's also Cinnamon Bread playing the K'Sante in the mid lane, by the way. I was thinking it was going to be the Akali, but yeah, they don't care about the top lane matchup. They'd rather just send the K'Sante mid lane. And we've seen a couple of Agorica.
Spicy as they go for the level 1 here. It is the Blade Caller, not yet leveled for Heretic, so they're just going to take their chunk. Young boy is here, throws down a turret. We'll get at least some damage back, but clever play there. TA Power playing out this level 1 very effectively, very creatively, going to net themselves an early lead.
It's the best way to try and stop an early kind of team, an early kind of game going through from UCI. It's to make it so that the early game is really difficult for them to play, and they are doing just that precisely. Really nice strategies they are coming through, really good punishments that they have. And now without Flash and Gorica, without Ghost, this may be
another hook. They're going to be able to take this one in. Heretic cleanses just for a little bit of extra movement speed, flashes forward and picks up first blood. TA Power recovering nicely from game number 1's bot lane, are picking up the 2-on-2s, and here's Bad to charge into the wall, knock in Mike Young, and the flash underneath the turret from Young Boy just to try to find a creative route out of here. They are going to look to try to hunt him down, but this is a win nonetheless, TDS.
100%. They get first blood onto Heretic, which is the player that you want to get the most. Youngboy probably, yeah, Youngboy is dead here, but you still force the play out so long. Youngboy took way too long to execute. He's going to be below the level that you probably want to with this Heimerdinger really early on. And then also the fact that you're already winning bot lane so heavily. Right now, yes, Gorica is going to receive this wave, but look at the back compared to what Gorica got to what Heretic is getting. He's getting a pickaxe plus the extra pot. He has so much damage already as Saya, and I don't think that the poke damage from the barriers and the Heimerdinger is going to be enough to counter that.
Super well played there, going to give you a nice safe buffer in the bottom lane. Keep playing this out, especially with Youngboy now down the flash as well. So gonna be no summoners across the board there up until Newbie gets his Ignite back and Gorica gets his Ghost, and that's pretty much how you want things to be here. It means that Bad now can play around this top side the way that he wants to. He can try to set up Kukikrook to get ahead. Kukikrook is looking to throw down some vision as well, just trying to keep tabs on Mike Young.
Doing a really good job at keeping himself safe, right? You already know that bot lane kind of won with what happened down there, so as long as you don't commit any big mistakes up there, you're going to have such a good advantage already going into this game. If not for the CS dip, they would be ahead they would be much more ahead in terms of gold, but as of now, it's still a really nice change up from what we saw in the previous game with TAP, and they are setting themselves up in a really good manner. Like, there needs to be a big mistake for them to kind of throw their lead that they already were able to uproot.
Absolutely does here. Looking like Bad, making a bit of a path towards top lane here. He is on the control ward. Related jukes towards bottom, but is going to stay for the time being. Meanwhile, big wave crashing in bot. Oh, somehow Bad got behind him, knocks him into the wall. Meanwhile, in the bot lane, Youngboy's getting flayed in. He's going to go down. Newbie gets that kill. Will they be able to trade back? One more snipe takes out Newbie and gets some gold back into Agorica's pocket. The step forward from Cinnamon Bread does end up getting stunned by those rocks. It does look like Elated was able to escape with the flash in top lane.
It ends up being a 1-for-1 down there, support for support. The difference is who gets the kills. Gorica gets it on the side of UCI, but TAP is the thresh that gets it at the end. So not the best gold value that you can get. Oh, top lane. Poppy maybe getting onto Elated here.
Yeah, Elated getting a little bit snagged here by Bad, who is just going to try to stop any dashes away and does get the stun into the wall. That's going to be a kill for Bad. And Mark Boots just jumps over the wall with the Dark Passage. Nicely played there by TA. As long as they avoid getting knocked up here, they do. TA going to be feeling just fine here with their early game lead.
Not only just fine, I think they are kind of set up. We talked about how much of a lead UCI may need to get because of how the comp works for TP. And honestly, with how TP is playing it, they are doing everything right so far. They are punishing UCI. They are able to get the better gold lead in their favor. And as long as they, once again, they don't commit any big major mistakes, as at 15 minutes, they should be in a really, really comfortable spot already. Another gank.
Well, with the Hex Flash does find a ward, so isn't going to be able to find too much more. But I love the Hex Flashes on these jungle poppies. Really lets you open up a lot more creative gank paths with your heroic charge. Still hovering around here, maybe threatening another Hex Flash over the wall.
I'm liking how Bad is approaching this, being really, really aggressive in this early game. We've seen much more action from a bit Bad than from Mike Young. He's actually just being everywhere in the map, trying to be as active as possible as the jungler, as a Poppy, which is a really good thing. Something that we didn't see in the previous game, right? The lack of maybe aggression. Ooh.
Nice hook there onto Mike Young, going to stop any efforts towards mid. Bad uses that steadfast presence to deny any advances from Cinnamon Bread.
Could be a dragon, though.
Move down to Dragon Pit, looking like they want to start it up.
They do have the push in both lanes. They have the turrets as well as the barrels. So probably going to be an easy collection of the dragon. But damage-wise, right now, TP does have a little bit more. If they wanted to force a fight, I feel like they probably could have done it. Just because the Saya coming back with the Noon Quiver would have been a much bigger deal than anything that UCI has right now comparatively.
A little late there by Heretic. Wasn't quite back in time. So that does give an opportunity for UCI to be able to take the dragon. Nicely drilled macro there, even from behind. UCI managed to get themselves some resources, can delay any kind of soul stacking from TA Power as well. It's a big piercing arrow, chunks out a fair bit of health for Gorka.
And it's interesting how much damage that does, even though it's not poke bearers. It's going to be attack speed bearers once again, just that he has the conquer instead of just the attack speed buff, which is a really weird thing.
Damage from Kooky Krook going to look like Elated is going to get forced out of lane once again, this time without the teleport. A bigger and bigger lead being built up by this Olaf as he can now look to crash in the waves. Hook nearly lands on a Gorka on the bottom lane, but Newbie going to continue to get harassed. Still going to be just a little bit more of a lead eked out for TA Power as this wave crashes, and it might even be a turret plate for Kooky Krook.
Honestly, after the last game and how it's been going so far, I'm surprised they wanted to up back into that lane in the top lane. Elated just hasn't had any say in whatever happens up there. Maybe a dive here, though. Mike Young coming down here.
Running it, they are working on the Rift Herald up there, and that is going to be a death for Newbie. He flashes away, but Mike Young is going to be here in time. Heretic stepping up, trying to stop him, but he comes in with the Cataclysm and dunks down onto the Thresh. That's going to be a kill for the UCI jungler.
They were able to blow the flash out in the previous play, and with that, it's just come in, Cataclysm yourself in, and then kill the Thresh in a really easy manner. They were already pushing them in even before that play, and now they get the kill, they force the Saya out as well. That means extra plates for Gorka. So even though that first blood happened really early on, right now I think gold difference-wise, it's probably in favor of the Varus.
Oh, Cinnamon Bread snags Mark Boots. Nice Cassante mechanics there. Forces out the flash, but Cinnamon Bread's got one of his own and finishes off the kill. Now the engage from Elated on the top side. Flash away from Bad in order to keep himself safe. And now with the Olaf here, they're just going to run him down. Kooky Krook gets the kill on the top side.
Elated had blood in his eyes. Thought he could get the solo kill into the Poppy before the Olaf was able to come down there. Wasn't really able to realistically, and ends up paying the price with his life. The only bad thing out of everything that UCI did in the last couple of minutes, because they got a solo kill in mid lane, they get a kill and a lot of plates down there in bot lane, and then they are able to deny the huge amount of pressure that a bit Bad was able to exert early on in the game. So they were doing a really good job, but that solo kill alone, or that kill alone at top lane, makes the game come back into a really big favor of TAP.
Definitely does. It means that fair bit of gold still going to be in TA Power's pockets. They still haven't thrown down that Rift Herald yet. That'll get them a little bit more. They're at about a 600 gold lead for the time being, and that's not too bad when all is said and done. Hook again almost lands on a young boy. The newbie just can't quite get them there yet.
Oh,
falling in bad. Oh, that's going to be Chains of Corruption landing, but they're going to land the hook and take it on to Gorica. He flashes back away. Blade Caller doesn't get the snare, except for one more. Auto gets it there. And Heretic going to be able to finish off the kill. Beautifully played on the Xayah, as Youngboy now continuing to throw out that damage with the turrets and with the grenades. Heretic just wants to clear out the wave, take the Dark Passage to safety. Mike Young is arriving in the bottom lane, but is a little bit too late. Bad will get the recall off, and that's just a nice little 1 for 0 there for the TA squad. Mark Boots, though, has to be careful. He's done this song and dance before. No all-out, though, this time for Cinnamon Bread.
Talk about a really unlucky situation, though, for UCI. Yes, it's great that they get the kill on TAP, on the side of TAP, and the Xayah is able to get another one, but realistically, at least one should have gone back into Gorica. He played that out as well as he could, gets the CC down, gets so much damage, but because it's between 2 targets, wasn't able to close out the kill. Really, really, really unlucky there. Ooh.
Oh, there's another all-out as soon as it's available. In goes Cinnamon Bread, gets stunned up just a little bit, but he just shrugs that one off. Now here's Bad trying to return some damage. Newbies here as well, but neither of them are going to be able to work their way through that big Cassante health bar. Might be half size, but it's still quite a bit to work through if you're just Poppy and Thresh.
If not for the really good vision control that they have to keep tabs on Mike Young, I think that they probably could have set up a really good kill on the side of UCI. Still, we're seeing how strong Cinnamon Bread is. He really doesn't care if someone is coming or not. He has the damage. He has the outplay potential to deny this Talia, and he's doing a really good job at that.
For sure. Elated throwing down that tumble here, looking possibly move forward. Newbie pulls Bad in over the wall. It's a 3 versus 2. Chains of Corruption land right away, though, and stop this gank in its tracks, and Gorica's actually returning. Way more damage than TA is putting out. Youngboy gets the kill on a Bad, and with Mike Young here as well, they're going to force them all the way off this turret. This is going to be first turret gold going over to UCI. Mark Boots is here to do the best he can to stop them, and they are going to stop them. They've run out of minions to be able to tank up the turret.
True, nobody else dies, and that's already a good outcome for TAP, although that is a huge amount of damage that they were able to do in that previous play. Even though just the Poppy dies, really, both the Thresh and the Xayah could have ended up dying in that play if they are not more careful. So the hovering from Mark Boots ends up working out really, really well. They do end up losing the turret, though. So the gold lead once again going in the favor of UCI. And in the meanwhile as well, Cinnamon Bread got a couple of plates in the mid lane. So the huge amount of gold that UCI was able to get there puts them once again in favor of the lead. As well as another dragon. They are really running the map.
And the Rift Herald coming from deep in the base here, and probably not going to be able to get too much done either.
The pain.
Yeah, Bad. Not able to find a good angle to actually utilize that one, and means that you don't really get to utilize it at all. Not going to be any turret plates to be claimed unless they can get it in there. I mean, they got a 3-man squad pulling in the turret. Not the target Newbie wanted, but it is going to step up here. They've got to get the auto as it's charging, and they can't quite get it. That's going to be some nice damage in there from TA, and they get themselves some gold. And now focusing in on a Cinnamon Bread, who maybe overcommitted, is going to go down to Bad. And TA Power, you know, they turn what was not a great Rift Herald drop into a winning play.
That really shouldn't have worked out at all for TAP. It's just that because of the fact that they deny dashes for a living, pretty much, with the Talia, the Poppy, and the Thresh, Cinnamon Bread cannot do anything else than just try and throw Qs. That's why at the end it works out so badly. It shouldn't have worked out that effectively, and they even force a kill out. They come back in terms of gold thanks to that, thanks to the plates that they were able to receive once again, but the gold is still really, really close. They are not going to get this already yet. Teleport for Elated. Actually, Cinnamon Bread coming here.
Yep, Cinnamon Bread showing up just to push him back. Cassante back in his natural territory. The top lane.
The top lane?
Yeah, going to farm it up against Kuki Kruk here for a little bit to make sure that this Olaf isn't going to get solo turret gold. He might have a substantial lead in CS. But by God, they're not going to give him that free turret. Bad is pathing up here. Gotta watch out, though. He's got a lot of money. He's got a lot of damage, Cinnamon Bread. This is not the Talia that you've been laning against all game.
Oh. Maybe we see another fight here, though.
pinch here. The teleport is coming in for Elated. They're going to try to focus their way down onto the drive, and Mike Young manages to escape. The hook lands, but Newbie's already so low. Kooky Krook as well, and it's just been picked apart here for TA Power. UCI going to get themselves a double kill onto Cinnamon Bread, and Heretic now chunked out bad as well, going to get chased down the rest of the way, goes into the Featherstorm, trying to get underneath the turret, but All Out pulls you so far away, and there is nowhere left to go. As bad as getting chased down, Cinnamon Bread, he wants himself a quadra kill, TDS, and he might just find it. Bad was waiting around in that bush. The smite going to come through. Is it going to be enough to stop Cassante from chasing you down? Not when Young Boy's on the other side. Not going to be an official quadra, but it's going to be a little bit of something here. Nice block. Could Bad potentially turn this one back around? Yeah, Cinnamon Bread realizes what's up. He's like, I'm not giving this shutdown gold. Let Young Boy get it. I'm going to call it there. Happy with the triple kill.
Good, smart, calm decision there by Cinnamon Bread, like you're saying, but it starts so well for the side of UCI. First of all, getting this kill on Mark Boots on the side, we didn't see it. Gorica commits everything but does get the kill. Forces out the exhaust as well, and that's why at the end he ends up dying though. But in the play that we do see, crucial to me, the Cataclysm, because it not only traps the Olaf in a place, but it also forces the Puppy. The Puppy dashed in to try and get on top of the Jarpen. And because she forced herself in, she didn't do anything in that fight. And it made it so that the targets for UCI were so easy to play out. NBA Youngboy as well, I think, is playing the game in general. The overall game so far has been so good by NBA Youngboy on this Heimerdinger.
And you can see, like, at this point, it's not just a fluke. He's got confidence that he could use these turrets to block out thresh hooks, and has done a great job of denying a lot of what Newbie's been trying to go for in this game. Gotta shout that one out. It's a tough mechanic to make happen consistently, but he appears to have the hang of it.
Also, just to quickly point out, they did collect the first 2 dragons, which means that the next one, the 3rd dragon of the game, the Soul Point, Ocean Soul Point, is going to be a pretty important fight for both sides. This Soul makes it so that UCI has a little bit better time trying to play out the game, because it makes it so that fights cannot just be poke and that's it. You have to actually commit to kill people, and that makes it so that UCI for longer fights can probably benefit quite a bit. So I'm ready to see a fight happening. They are fighting for control, and they probably are going to be committing quite a bit for it.
Mark Boots does have the Weaver's Wall, is coming in from the side to potentially cut them off. Rift Herald gets thrown down. Ooh. Mark Boots is here on the side with the lockdown onto Bad. They just burst out the Poppy. They don't care about that passive. They're going to take you right out, damage resistance or no, as Mark Boots gets locked down there in the Cataclysm, takes the Dark Passage to safety, but a big grenade out of Young Boy locks down all 3 members, and Cinnamon Bread is tanky enough to go for this dive solo, cuts down I'm a Newbie. Flash forward from Mike Young to be able to take out Mark Boots. And they are going to be able to trade one back here in the form of the kill on a Mikey Young, rather. But that is going to be a 3-for-1 in favor of UCI as they move back for the Dragon.
I don't think Mike Young flashed in. He just walked forward and smited. So it does end up paying out for him. Oh, teleport by the Olaf. This does stop the Dragon potential. I don't think they can take it with no smite. Poppy is also coming back up.
Yeah, Heretic there as well to back up the Olaf. Going to look to move on to this Dragon. Does look like they will be able to secure it for themselves.
Did Gorica secure it?
Gorica would have to get a big snipe here. Is channeling it, fires it, doesn't have the damage, and it will get smited down by Bad.
It's the reset. Not sure if it was a call for allow the Dragon to reset, or if it just happened, but that makes it so that the attempt for Gorica doesn't work out that well. This is a really important victory for TAP though. Yes, they may have lost a fight in the mid lane. The turret as well as the gold lead is now much more in favor of UCI, but getting 4 more minutes, or better said 5 more minutes, without the soul being an important factor for UCI is huge for them. They still need to get 2 items on Heretic, 2 items on Mark Boots, another item on the Soul App to really be able to begin playing the fights a little bit better.
Is what they are looking for sure here. They are going to be stepping up around the Baron. That's going to be a hook for Newbie. Can't pull Young Boy over the wall, though. It's real finicky with what you can and can't get over in those little thin pit walls. Doesn't get him there, but does get the stun onto Cinnamon Bread. A hook as well, but this is a tanky Cassante. He's got a Sunfire Cape. He's got Jacques Show. He's walking out of there.
Yeah, I was really going to ask, does it really matter if you get hooked and stopped there? You're so tanky as the Kisante, and you even have ways to make it so that it's actually a bait and you're able to go for the kill there. Oh.
Right, gonna start it off here. Gorica.
That was
just
easy.
Ripped through Kooky Krook. Wow, that's quite a bit of damage with the Goonsu's completed. Mike Young is there for the emotional support, and they take out the enemy top laner.
That was such an easy execution by UCI. I wasn't expecting it to be that easy, if I'm honest. He just walked in, ulti, and then allowed Gorica to take the credit of the kill credit. But I actually disagree. I think it's all Mike Young in that play. Yes, Gorica gets the damage, but it really just sets it up perfectly. Ooh.
Throw down from Mark Boots here. Going to get the knockback in there onto Cinnamon Bread, who does go all out and is going to get big knockbacks onto Mark Boots, stepping forward here. But he is very outnumbered. Just dashes back over the wall. Meanwhile, they've been working on this Baron all day long, and Mike Young going to smite it down as bad. Just has to try to get his teammates out of here alive. Mark Boots incredibly low elated, going to dash back, and they do manage to escape on the side of TA Power, but they got no Baron buff, and they haven't taken any members down from UCI.
That was looking so scary with Cinnamon Bread just jumping in. They secured a Baron buff though, which was the objective after you take down the Olaf in that play. And I gotta give huge credit to the Poppy ultimate because it did push out the other member that could have allowed for Cinnamon Bread to really just carry out the fight. They don't have enough damage to be able to kill the Keisante, but he does have the potential to kill you if you're not careful enough. And I think the fight was a really good example of that. Nobody dies, but the Baron buff now may be the tool to finally open up the base that UCI has been looking for.
Very well could be. 6k gold lead for UCI. Feeling very strong here. Nobody really able to deal with this Cassante effectively. They were able to get their bottom lane ahead like they wanted to on the side of TA Power, but this time they don't have the power on the top side anymore. Kooky Krook got melted down in that last fight by Gorica, and Cinnamon Bread is such a powerful frontline force in these team fights.
I was just waiting for Gorica to die in that position. He was just standing there. Oh, maybe it's NBA Youngboy actually.
All right, Mark Boots and Bad going to find Youngboy. They've got the Heimerdinger in their sights. He flashes away, throws down the big turret, but they've got four members chasing him down in mid lane. The pings are coming towards the bot inner. Wait, but he's actually out. They haven't been able to catch on to him, and Elated is here as well. Bad might be overcommitting, does block some stuff with the steadfast presence, but now is going to have to head for the hills just to try to stay alive. Dash forward from Elated, but he gets flayed backwards by Newbie in order to stay alive. The dash forward from Heretic to close it out. He does get the big shutdown on a young boy, but at what cost? Because there's three members knocking on the doors of the bottom lane. Mike Young, Cinnamon Bread, and Gorica are just tearing apart the base of UCI, and Kooky Krook can only watch as they do it.
I feel so bad that Heimer does die there. Like, yes, the team UCI is able to actually get the inhibitor turret, not the inhibitor, but so much value thanks to the huge commitment that TAP went there. But Youngboy played that out so well. He did everything in his power to survive. He shouldn't have died. It just feels bad that even if you do everything right, you end up dying in that situation. But it's for the benefit of the team. And this also means that even though he died, they will be able to fight for this next dragon, and everyone wants a good fight, it seems.
Definitely does. As Bad is deep behind enemy lines here. They might smell that something's up here, though. He charges into Gorica and has to flash over the wall. And now is going to be flashless, half HP, as this dragon is coming up in 5 seconds.
And I think that's the fight done. I don't think we're going to see a fight anymore after they did commit for a bit bad. It's soul point obtained for UCI. Baron, I think, should have already gone down, if I'm not wrong. So probably going to take a little bit longer for them to finally try and open up, unless they kill Mark Blitz here. Okay, he's fine.
That would be a rough situation, but Mark Boots does manage to escape. And it's really just been a lot of the global gold loss that's made a big difference here, right? It's been UCI able to rotate for the turrets, able to rotate for the objectives, and that is what has netted them this lead. Bad comes out of the base once again. Kooky Krook Split pushing on the side lane. They don't have Heretic anywhere nearby, though. He's doing Krugs on the top side. This was going to be a 3v4 for TA Power. As the lockdown comes through on a bad, he does manage to punt out Mike Young, but is going to get melted down by the Rockets. And now stepping forward is the rest of UCI. Ooh. Heretic has completed the recall, but it might just be too late as Cinnamon Bread goes unstoppable. Gorka raining down the arrows, flashes back away to avoid the Blade Caller. Rockets come through, land on a Heretic, and he has to defend this all on his own until Cookie Crooks arrives. We just did.
Yeah, he got there just now, but wasn't able to be a part of the fight. We're seeing how much value the Cataclysm has, because he just locks down people there. When you have no flash, Gorka gets free out attacking time. And that combo has worked out so effectively against so many members. They finally break down an inhibitor, elated. I think he's fine. Yeah, it's a Kali. She can dash away whatever she wants. But it's really looking like the main difference that you can take away from this series is the way that UCI plays for the map, right? Not oftentimes do they get a big teamfight victory or anything like that, but it's more so the way that they utilize the advantages that they just got. For example, in the mid lane play where NBA Junkboy died, immediately moved bot side, got to turrets. This time around, they know that the Olaf is pushing on the other side. They commit to the inhibitor without really over committing. They get the kill on the Poppy, and they get the kill on the inhibitor. They utilize some summoners, yes, but the value that they get overall in the play with their movement is so much more than what they are giving up to TAP.
Definitely what they've given up this game has set up UCI to potentially be able to close this one out here. They're going to need to find some big fights in their favor. Some way of taking out Cinnamon Bread. Be very high on that list of priorities. They are working their way towards an LDR for Heretics. But once again, Heretic left so far away from the play here is going to be a big part of the problem. Big Bad looking for a big angle here if he could find it, but cannot get his way onto Cinnamon Bread. Newbie looking for hooks, can't find those either, and they've just lost a top inner turret for nothing. Bad might even be caught out as well, has to run away.
Cinnamon Bread is such a big gatekeeper. They get the turret up there. Oh, wait, Young Boy gets hooked. He's dead.
Nice catch there on the Young Boy. Mark Boots gets the first one. It's 5 versus 4 on the map for TA Power. This is the best chance they've had in a long time, TDS. They definitely want to jump on it, but the catch on to Mark Boots. He takes the Dark Passage in time, though. Does successfully stay alive despite getting hit by those chains of corruption, and now they're looking to move into mid, but Cinnamon Bread is stepping forward, goes unstoppable, blocks the hook. Big play for the rest of his team there to be able to protect them from those sorts of hooks. And they're still pinging towards the Baron. They don't care that Young Boy is missing. They know that they're strong enough even with just 4.
I don't think it's the Baron they want to try and go for. Yeah, Cookie Crookies has to run away there. Probably would have died if he gets just a little bit too greedy with the back in that position. But even though they did get the pick on NBA Junkboy, it's a really good pick, and it probably stops the Baron from happening. They cannot do anything with that play because they cannot force a Baron. They cannot force a turret on the other side. They still have so much control from the side of UCI, and I think it's going to be a force. Yeah, it's going to be a Baron force here.
The super minions are crashing bottom. Cookie Crook needs to go and answer those. They actually sent probably too many people to go and answer it because now they're late. Showing up to the Baron play itself, it's already below half HP, below 3k. It's going to get smited down. Nobody can get here in time. Mike Young claims that objective for the Anteaters. And TA Power, they just have to back away.
It's just the way that UCI has played this out, because they played once again the map really, really well. Even in the phase of a member getting picked off in a bad position, they didn't lose anything meaningful, and they just allowed the waves to be consistently pushed. They wait for the super minions to get into the base, and then they commit for the Baron. They know that they have control. They know that they have the right people in the right place to be ready to react in case something goes wrong, but they can just be aggressive and take the Baron. Ooh, a bit bad has flash.
Hook lands onto Gorica. Can they get onto him in time? The hook not going to get it. He gets blocked by the bird of all things, and Cookie Crook is going to drop first in the fight as Gorica goes on a rampage. Elated has found his way out of Mark Boots. The teleport is coming in from Cinnamon Bread to get onto the rest of these members. Grenade knocks them all to the side as they get a double kill onto the side of Gorica. Newbie is going to be the next target, and that's going to be a clean 5-for-0 ace for California Irvine, as they are going to look to just march their way down mid and close out this game number 2. It was a well-fought battle from TA Power TDS, but it's looking like this team is going to stay undefeated.
It really is looking like that. If not for the minion wave not really being in position to allow for them to push, this game probably would have already been over. So we're just going to wait a couple of seconds before they finally can close it out. But like you're pointing out, this team is looking strong. This team is looking scary. They know what they want to do. They know how they like to play. Even though it was an ISEP coming in from TAP, UCI didn't really give them a lot of opportunities. Even the few that they gave to TAP were answered accordingly, and it just goes to show why they are one of the teams that are favorites for the league.
Yeah, absolutely. You can see how well drilled they are here, right? You have good advantages in the individual fights going over to the side of TA Power, but every time they make a little slip up, every time somebody is farming a side wave when they aren't allowed to, taking a recall just a little bit too late, UCI is there to punish. They snag themselves extra dragons even while they're behind in bot lane. They take themselves turrets in the bot lane while their teammates are getting caught out and chased on the other side of the map. And this just leads to them building up a bigger and bigger lead over the course of the game without necessarily having to win those fights or make those lanes happen.
Exactly, and to me, it's even more impressive in the second game because we need to remember how it started. They blew Ghost off of Gorica really early on. They blew the health bar from MDA Jungboy, didn't blow the flash, but was forced out of position. They got control of the enemy jungle, not necessarily stealing anything, but they had the vision. They pulled off a really nice cheeky start onto Gorica as well. They got the first blood, but all those good things that they did early on were immediately answered in a good way by the side of UCI. And then I want to give huge props to Cinnabon Bread, both in this game and the last game, because he kept Mark Boots so on check. I don't remember Mark Boots being able to move around or do anything meaningful because Cinnamon Bread was always on him, putting pressure on the lane, not allowing anything to happen. I think it goes to show how much power the mid lane had in this whole series.
Absolutely, here a fantastic showing there for UCI, showing why they're some of the favorites in this league and certainly favorites in this group as they move up to 10-0 game record, 5-0 match record, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, that would be how the math works out. So certainly got to be close to it. And yeah, that's definitely accurate there. So that's going to do it for our ACL broadcast on this week. Stay tuned to Aegis throughout the rest of the week for more Aegis broadcast. We'll be back with ACL next Friday for week number 6. So we're starting to amp up for playoffs here, TDS. Only 7 weeks in the regular season, so only 2 more to go. Excited to see you here next week. But until then, for myself, TDS, and Caddy on production, thank you all for tuning in, and we will see you again next week.